Yes, Jim Cotner, I'm a part of the town. I'm one of the co-chairs.
Nick Sankey was carbon.
Michelle, yeah, Division of Water Rights.
You know, keep this carbon canal.
Steph McGinnis, State Water Plant Manager with Division of Water Resources.
Kerry Cook, co-chair.
Bert Robbins, I'm with the Fish Lake National Forest on the Freedom River Ranger District in Wallowa.
Bart Jensen, Jones and DeMille, engineering.
I'm Cody Allred. I'm an industrial water user on the council, work with the city corps and also the state representative on the state council.
Harley Payne, Watershed Council's coordinator.
Miles Nelson, City Public Works and the Council Secretary. John Boyd, Price City.
Kathy Sherman, Price City.
Rachel Shilton with the Division of Water Resources. I am there. I'm your area planning specialist from Water Resources now.
Russell Seeley, and I represent the Price River Watershed Council.
I'm Jeff Richens with the Price River Water Improvement District.
Bill Butcher, I'm here representing the Price River Watershed Conservation District.
Jaylene Maleras, Price Wellington Control Board.
Tom and DR with Trout Unlimited.
Okay, now we need to go to the phone, call in. We see we've got Mark Quilder on there. Sue, looks like Sue's joined us today.
Okay, I'll go first. I'm Sue Belagamba with the Nature Conservancy.
I'm Jay Humphrey with the Emory Water Conservancy District.
Looks like we've got 3 more on there, at least.
I'm Todd Stonley with the Utah Division of Water Resources.
Mike Noel with the Kane County Water Conservancy.
Hi, I'm Olga Isupov. I'm with Water Resources as well.
I'm Bart Batista.
Oh, Bart.
Hey, Mike.
Apparently that's it, looks like. Okay, thanks everybody for coming. Glad to have Kerry here, also with us today, our co-chair. Glad he was able to come out and make it. So looks like first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from February 11th. Had a chance to go around. Do you have any comments? Anything that could be addressed on? Just point if everybody's good with them, I need someone to make a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion. Make some G.
Okay. There's one second. Yeah, I'll go ahead and second. Okay, Bill Butcher. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Perfect. Okay, looks like the next item up is filling of the 21st seat, the final seat on the council. So where do we at on that?
So Cash Stallings, who couldn't be here today, has sent me a few names. Let me pull up my list. I haven't contacted any of them because I do feel like that's best if it comes from someone on the council.
Okay.
But do any of you guys, I'll just tell you and you can tell me if any of you know them or think they'd be good members. I have from Pine Creek Irrigation Company, Steve Gessick, New Escalante Irrigation Company, Gary Harding, Colby Hunt, and Lee Thane. I'm not sure who those two are with.
Lee Fane's on
Lee
green.
Fane would be Green River.
Cody.
Okay,
Okay,
so those are some recommendations from Cash.
Kerry, did you guys know any of those folks on down south there?
I didn't recognize.
I was just gonna look back in the text that I received from another guy who was, from Tyler Peterson, who's, I asked him a while back if he knew some names of people that we could have serve on this board, and, it's in there somewhere.
Okay,
I'll look up
when
the,
you get that.
let's see what I find, and see if the names match, okay?
Really, we truly still need someone from farther south. Don't you feel? I mean, Green River is kind of connected to us. And I mean, it's a different deal, but it's still up here on the north end of the council, I think. So if we could get some more representation from farther south, I think we would be a little more better representative of all. Guess we can push that down the road until the next meeting, but Kerry can, when Kerry gets time to find that information, that's all. Okay, perfect. Okay, well, looks like we're up to the state water plan overview with Stephanie. At this point.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. And for my online folks, I'm trying to get connected so I can share a couple of pieces of information with you. They were emailed out on Monday, I believe, but I'll get those up in a moment. So I imagine for most of you in the room, I'm a new face. I just joined the Division of Water Resources in January as the new state water plan manager. And I'm really excited to be here with you all. I think a really sort of neat component of the state water plan is trying to get that local basin perspective. And so really looking forward to hearing all of your thoughts and getting your expertise on some of the things that we should be highlighting in the state water plan. Did anyone happen to look over the outline that I sent out on Monday?
I'll be honest, no, I've been too busy.
Yeah, I figured most people didn't take a look at it. So a couple of things. I will pass out a copy here in just a moment, and I'll try and get that up for the folks online as well. But it's long, it's 5 pages long, and so I don't even know how much time I have on the stage here today, but I don't want to spend a lot of time of you all trying to sort of comb through all of those pieces, but I'd like to be able to just give you a broad overview. I will pass out a copy. We will be sending out a survey. It'll probably be another week or so, but we will be sending out a survey to also just get additional thoughts. And of course, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to Carly with other thoughts that you may have. But there's been some recent legislation that's passed in 2024, and that's part of the reason that, you know, we all are here together to talk about that plan is the watershed councils are asked to provide input on the state water plan. We also will be updating the plan. Code is requiring that update every 10 years, but we do have an internal goal to be updating that plan every 5 years. And my hope with that is, you know, the challenges and the needs, they're evolving. So I want that plan to reflect that at that statewide level, but also at that local level. So with the state plan, just to give you sort of a broad look at it, we'll be setting the stage of water in Utah, which is hard to do because there's a lot of different challenges within the state. But we will be talking about some of the constraints. So hydrologically, right, we are in control of precipitation, but then we will be getting into a little bit of sort of the laws and the policy, some of those things that as humans, we do have a bit of control in. And then we'll have a couple of chapters that may be familiar to some of you. We'll have a chapter on vibrant communities. So we'll be talking about how does water relate to communities, urban and rural, and what makes them vibrant. We'll have a chapter on productive agriculture, and we'll also have a chapter on healthy watersheds and ecosystems. And then we will have a conclusion chapter, but sort of to tie this whole plan together, we will have a chapter on the basin perspective. And that's one of the things that I really wanted to talk about today is what I would like to do with the state water plan is highlight challenges and needs and successes here within your basin. And, you know, I know that for some of you, you know, working on this state water plan, it's kind of maybe a big ask. And I really see the division that will be doing a lot of the heavy lifting. So working with you all to get your comments and feedback, but we'll be really writing that chapter unless someone here would love to write. I welcome that. But certainly we'll be taking that information, turning that into text that will go into the state water plan, and then sending it to you for review first to see if we did hit the mark on what you would like to see reflected. And to me, I see a big bonus of this chapter and having your information in the state water plan is this is something that will be handed over to legislators. So we can, you know, this is an avenue to sort of highlight challenges and needs, and this will be, you know, something that they'll be reading, and helping them to make decisions when it comes to funding legislation, things like that. Before I go any further, does anyone have any questions at this point? One thing I will point out, I had mentioned that we'll be updating the state water plan. Our goal is to have that updated every 5 years. The next iteration is due December of 2026, and that may seem like that's a ways away, but really that's, you know, I feel like we're really charging down the tracks on that. So what my hope is with this meeting is to maybe, I would like to do more listening than talking on this. Again, we'll have that survey because I know it's a lot to be just sort of asking for this feedback on the spot. One of the things that I would really like to talk about as well is I would love to hold a public scoping meeting this summer in each basin. And again, not asking you all for heavy lifting, but I would really love to have your thoughts and feedback on, you know, where should we hold this meeting? What's a good venue? I know that this council is covering a lot of area. So, you know, where would be the best place to hold that this summer? You know, even thoughts on sort of times loosely of the summer where we would get the best turnout. And I'm also hoping that we can get some or all of you to participate in that public scoping meeting. I think that there's a lot of value in these sorts of meetings to not just have someone coming from Salt Lake City to talk to them, but to actually have some local folks there to help represent and facilitate that conversation. Any questions, comments on that? So what I would like to do, I'm going to pass around a timeline so that you can see sort of what we're focusing on as we move through this. Again, we're on a really tight timeline here in my world. So we'll be looking to have sort of a first draft that we would love to have your feedback on, not just on that Basin chapter, but on the chapter or on the entire plan. So all of those chapters. That would be sort of December, January, and then we'll be looking to have a final draft, again, publication ready by December of 2026. We will have some more opportunity for public feedback next summer as well. So I'd be interested in interest level, gauging that for participating in that. So I will hand the timeline this way. I'm going to have the outline the other way, and just give you all about, I don't know, how much time do we have for this state water plan? I don't want to commandeer the entire meeting, but.
We got a 2-hour meeting here. We've got maps to go over.
Okay, so if I give you all just maybe 5 minutes to just kind of look this over and then just see if there's any general thoughts or comments. Okay. And for my online folks, I will see if I can get this up. my online folks, if you did not receive the initial email on Monday, I'll make sure that gets sent out. It's a long outline, it's 5 pages, so I realize it's a lot to ask you all to go over. But are there any initial thoughts, questions, comments?
I have one quick question. So previously, there was, I think, a plan in place, and I don't know if it's still in place, but are you piggybacking on anything in that previous plan to start out with? Or are you starting from scratch?
From the 2021
Yeah.
sort of water resources plan. I think that there would be some piggybacking on that. There were some goals that were called out in that. And so it'd be nice to sort of address what we did achieve or what we did not achieve as a state with those goals. And so part of what I'd like to do is piggyback on that, but also, you know, identify some more actionable goals and strategies. And we'd be hitting on the individual, local, and state level with those to sort of outline those actions and set goals.
Clarification question.
Sure.
So I understand this is a state water plan. But in the last number of years, the majority of the focus has been put on Great Salt Lake. And the drainages that go into the Great Salt Lake by the Bear, the Weaver, those kind of things. Do they really care what we think about Great Salt Lake with drainage and Weaver and the Bear and things like that?
I mean, it's a statewide water plan, so it's hard to, I don't want to say that we don't care what you all think. You know, certainly we'll be working with those groups as well to address those specific issues. It will be addressed, certainly, being the statewide water plan, and it will be interesting because there's things that will be a focus in other areas of the state that will not be a focus there. So reuse would be a good one to point out. So there'll be some differences across the state, but I do think it's important. And again, I welcome any feedback at all on this, but certainly one of the things that I'm really hoping with you all is to get some thoughts and feedback on local challenges, local issues, and any sort of successes, recent things that you're working on that you think would be great to highlight. And on that last page, you know, this doesn't look like a lot. I know that some of these chapters, there's a lot of information, and when you look at chapter 8, I'm talking about challenges, needs, and highlighting the project. But I think that's really valuable. So there may not be a lot of text there, but I think that there's a lot of valuable information in that. And again, to bring some of these local issues at sort of that, you know, higher level, put that spotlight on there. I think probably the biggest challenge to me, I feel like if I was in your all shoes, is with this large of a geographic area that you all are covering, is how easy will it be to settle on, you know, what are the unique challenges here and the needs and successes? I think that will probably be a challenge.
That leads to another question, and it's been kind of mentioned here and there, and maybe I shouldn't be mentioning at this point. Sorry, Cody. It is a huge geographical area, and these 2 or 3 counties have totally different needs than those 3 or 4 counties.
Yeah.
I don't know what it takes to split that off so they can focus, so we can focus on what we need and they can focus on what they need. I mean, I understand it was appropriated, decided by the state, by the legislature and all that stuff, but there is the mechanism to make that change. I don't want to derail the discussion today, but it ought to be considered.
Yeah, no, I think that there's a lot of unique situations that everyone's dealing with. So, but I think just bringing those to the table and having a conversation about those as we move forward with this process and figuring out the best way to highlight that and deal with that in the state water plan, I think is important. And I'm not saying it's easy by any means.
We definitely appreciate your perspective. I think we all would agree that that's a big challenge for us, and we're already feeling the disconnect and the vastness of it and how we get this thing off the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. yeah, not an easy ask, but certainly, I mean, I feel like it's important for me to come to you all, to get your input and feedback rather than the division at the state level trying to assign what those challenges and needs are. So I think this is a really important, and great improvement as we're moving forward. And not to say that the division wasn't collaborating, in past projects, but I think really having this focus on working with you all, I think is great.
On your, in section 7, talks about the watersheds and ecosystems on page 5, under section E and F, list 3 are for the kind of the watershed basins that are all, I guess, tributaries to the Great Salt Lake Basin. Is there, I guess, do we need to infill that with Colorado River drainage as well, each of those watersheds, or I guess I don't know what's in those sections, but
And D, E, and F.
yeah.
Yeah, so one of those, so these are ones that all waters, sovereign lands, right? But these ones are specifically called out in code. So it's sort of that state level. That's one of the reasons that these are focused on. So that's not to say that these are the only important water bodies, and certainly we could address potentially calling out some other water bodies if you all are interested.
I have my hand raised, so since there's a quiet period, I'd just like to put a point on the state thinking not only about the Great Salt Lake, but the challenges in the Colorado River Basin also. For example, just looking at the outline under 1, introduction, legislative changes, I think one of the most important things that have happened in the Colorado River Basin is the creation of the Colorado River Authority of Utah, which hopefully if Jay wasn't on the phone, he'd agree with me.
Yeah, thank you.
The types of things that seem to be, we seem to make this plan more robust for the challenges we're facing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate you mentioning that. That was actually called out in a meeting Monday afternoon, but that would be an important one to add. So I appreciate you mentioning that as well. Any other thoughts? Questions?
You want to leave the discussion, go through each section, and if you get chapters 1, say if there's no other comments in chapters 1, move to chapter 2.
We could certainly do that. I just, again, I didn't want to comment here. I don't know how much time. A lot of plans or a lot of this, but yeah, I'd be more than happy to do that. Anything else on chapter 1?
Well, the only thing I have, I've written down in chapter 1 is the demand management code 73-330, section 4. And that's kind of falls under Colorado River Authority. But that is something new.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And I guess I'll add the in-stream flow legislation that was also created and water banking. Although water banking was part of the previous plan, I believe, yeah.
We will be talking water banking later on in this document. Any other major thoughts, comments? Chapter 1. So I'll just tell you with chapter 2, again, we're just sort of going for that broad sort of hydrologic cycle. We'll be talking about the water budget here in Utah and some of those constraints with hydrologic, legal, and mechanical.
Mechanical being in infrastructure?
Yes.
So one of the things too is that this is also planned to be a short document, so 150 pages. So as you go through the, as you go through the outline, we are really looking at a high level review, not getting into specific projects in detail, but perhaps the policies that would drive changes, developments in the communities at the local level. So that's one of Stephanie's challenges is 150 pages.
Since Rachel has dropped that spoiler alert, I will say, I mean, I already said with chapter 8 that this will be a real challenge for as a group to identify those challenges and needs. I will say that that chapter will be fairly lengthy, but this isn't the only watershed council, so we'll be representing all of them. And so I would imagine that in my perfect world, each council will be getting 2 to 3 pages to highlight that information. So this will be extra challenging, I think, certainly.
And it's an opportunity for this council, well, for every council, to really come together and you as council and in your community say, what are our top priorities? What are our real concerns? And if that's split north-south, that's great. But how many communities agree on this topic? And so that should that be one of the major things for this watershed contribution to the plan, if that makes sense. And then if it's different than that, for how you guys come together and drive that, then it's what you decide. But if you can hit those high topics that you have agreement on to push it, or if you have policy issues that you'd like conveyed in it, that would be an approach to it.
One of the things that we've chatted about is, you know, what can be identified that really benefits sort of that larger group as opposed to just narrowing in on, you know, what would just benefit maybe a small group within the entire watershed council. What are some of those high level things that could be addressed? Might be a way to go about it.
And with that in mind, just generally speaking, I think Colorado River Basin issues, developments in the basin, has got to be right at the very top, not only for this watershed, but other watersheds in the state. But you know, we hear a lot about Great Salt Lake Basin, and right, and so but I would argue that we need to have an equal focus on the state plan with Colorado River Basin issues, because its potential impacts on communities is very significant. And we know that. I mean, that's why we legislated in Colorado River Authority and 3 different councils or communities, I should say. We've got too many things going on. But you know, there's a lot of effort going on there. But I would hope this plan, and you see sprinkles of it here and there, really hits hard on Colorado River. I think every one of our tributaries is a Colorado River tributary from north to south.
Chapter 2, you've got an item under A23, how do you start reports for water use? And then in B21, it's diversion versus depletion. It's kind of the same topic, but how are we looking at changing how you start reporting water use? I know right now it's you divert it, you use it, regardless if you have return flow.
Is this a good time for me to play the new card? I don't know. That's a great question. And I've already had some conversations about how even just different agencies sort of think about those terms and report them. So I don't know that I have a good answer for you right now.
Okay. Well, for example, Great Salt Lake, you know, they don't allow reef. Once you divert it, you're in Great Salt Lake drainage.
Yeah.
That's all you get. It's gotta be returned flow to get to the lake. But in the Colorado, we get billed for it even differently than Nevada does or Arizona does. So I'm just.
And that's one of the things why I brought up reuse earlier as an example of, there'll be things in the state water plan that don't apply to the state as a whole, right? But
Right.
certainly we won't be in the Great Salt Lake contributing basins we're talking about.
But I think as a state, we need to adopt a plan that says we will be equal to the other basin states that say, if you divert it and you have return flow, you get credit back for your return flow.
So that's one of those policy conversations that's going on right now. Washington County is trying to do that. Some of the other basins are trying to do it as well. One of the discussions, and this is, separate from this council, but my other hat, that's one of the topics that I'm working on. And it is, I would love to have that settled and have it in this state water plan. But input from you guys and input from you, if you've got ideas about not even how we could do that uniformly across the state, but how we can do it so we can describe so that small communities can do it and it doesn't require a huge effort. You know, it's if you are tracking sewer return flows, that's hard for some folks to do. And if you've only got septic systems, that's a bigger challenge. So looking at that, but that is one of those things that can be in here. It does not have to be uniform across the state, but we need to figure out how we apply it and give those communities throughout the state options about how they can account for those return flows.
You mentioned Washington County, they are, where they discharge, it's low basin.
Yes.
How's that going to figure in total?
So the state water plan is not going to address, and it's not going to
Okay.
solve Colorado River issues, but it will say Colorado River issues are part of Utah's challenges for water planning. And they are separate than northern Utah, and that needs to be part of our policies and included, right? No, don't stop.
No.
Right? That's it. Devil's in the details.
Okay, so on that first page, under measuring water supply and use, do you have anything in there about forecasts? A lot of us use forecast models. And a lot of us are a little bit leery about the accuracy of them. It sure would be nice to improve, to put some resources forward in improving forecast models.
That's a great comment.
Yeah.
And you're using it for agriculture applications?
Well, really just water management. I
Okay,
manage Schofield Reservoir.
okay,
And so we're looking at that all the time, kind of think, do
right,
we have too much in the lake right now? Do we need less water out? Do we need to hold it? What are we doing?
right. How much let out for spring runoff
Yeah.
without flooding? So big water management, not just agriculture.
Yeah, not just agriculture, this is,
And it seems like, just to add to what Bill's saying, in my experience, it seems like it's getting the discrepancies or the errors in forecasting are bigger as we get. I mean, we've had a few huge snowpack years in recent time and was expecting a lot of water. If you go back and look at say the April 1 forecast, April through July forecast, compared to what we've actually seen in our reservoirs, it's off. And some people think it's the way the temperatures are and how the quicker rapid warm ups, it's affecting the actual runoff. And somehow we need to kind of plug some factors into the forecasting to bring it back to reality, or otherwise you get to where you're not confident in it, so it's hard to make good decisions if you don't trust the data you're looking at.
That's good.
Yeah, I think that's an important challenge. Certainly when I was in Montana previous to being in Utah, that was one of the things talking about some of the managing dams of, the modeling it's getting more difficult because as things are changing, right, that we're not able to take that past data to do that forecasting. So I think that's a great point. What else?
So as this system progresses, or this plan progresses, are you looking to see comments on each chapter from each watershed council? Is that how your intent is to pan out?
In my perfect world, I would love all of the feedback that you all are willing to give. I realize that is a big ask for many of you, for this watershed council. So I think if we had to sort of prioritize I would really like to focus in on that Basin chapter, to really have your feedback there. But I think we would appreciate, there's other chapters. And I guess it just depends on how you look at this, right? There's other chapters here with the vibrant communities, rural and urban, the productive ag. I think that you all could have a lot of great input and really help to shape the direction of what is included in the state law. So, again, I realize it's a big ask for some folks, but I think it's important if you have the time and if you're willing and able to weigh in on those chapters as well.
But to start out, you want us to focus on 8.
I think that would be great. Yeah, to start working with you all on just really, again, I think it's a big challenge to really distill down all of the challenges and needs that this watershed council, the area that it covers, to really be able to distill that down and try to figure out what you really would like to elevate to have in that state water plan. But again, it's not just this natural resources document that's going to sit on the shelf, but it will be distributed out. And we really do have a lot of, I think, buy-in from other agencies that are really supporting this plan. And we'll be leveraging them as well to get this plan out to folks that are shaping water, policy and here in the state.
This is Mike Noel from Kane County. I'm wondering, are you going to have any information on Lake Powell Pipeline for Washington County?
We do have a section where we will be talking about projects. Let me just find. So in chapter 5C, in there we'll be talking about projects. And certainly that will be one that will be, because that is still in statute, that will certainly, we'll be discussing that in here.
Yeah, I mean, the whole upper basin, lower basin issue, as Gene knows, he's dealing with that right now. And that's something that really concerns me because the big population states are going to really push hard and maybe take some of the water that we have allocated for our people here in the South. Our situation this year, I don't know if any of you went to the Utah water users meeting here last week and saw the report on drought. We're in an extreme drought in southern Utah, whereas northern Utah is in pretty good shape. So there's quite a difference down here in what happens across the state. That's a very important project for Washington County and Kane County to a much lesser, but still a critical important one. I noticed there was a presentation from Brian Steed at the end of the meeting, and his whole focus was on Great Salt Lake. That's really hard to convince people here to save water to put in Great Salt Lake when they don't even have enough water for their crops. So you do have a distinct difference between the southern half of the state and the northern half of the state. I don't know how you deal with those issues, but should be pointed out.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you pointing that out. The state is doing great overall, right? But here in some of these southern areas, we're in bad shape. So these will be addressed. I mean, again, the state water plan will, the focus won't just be on northern Utah. The idea here is to represent the entire state. So we will be touching on, Lake Powell Pipeline will be mentioned, discussed. It will be an item in the state water plan.
Thank you.
Any other questions with the water administration chapter? I don't know if folks have any strong thoughts there. Again, we're talking about policy. So just sort of who does what as well in the state. So
Well, again, I'll make a comment as an agriculture producer and being involved in agriculture for a lot of years. One of the major issues that I see statewide is how, as agriculture users become more efficient in water use, one of the main things they're promoting this year is the underground drip system, which becomes even more efficient than, say, center pivots, uh, side roll irrigation. That's where the majority of the water for future culinary use is going to be. There should be some type of discussion on that and how we compensate farmers that are trying to become more conservation minded with their water, but as they do that, they lose their water. It's a whole different situation with a farmer than it is with a conservancy district or even a city. As a city becomes more efficient, it frees up more water. They have the ability to sell more connections. And as a farmer becomes more efficient, his water goes away. So that's one issue that you probably ought to look at. And also the whole issue with right now, the way water rights are allocated, a lot of the water is put in the ground, but goes on down. And the second user might be the part of the water that the first user, even though he had a right to divert, isn't really fully utilizing. But if you cut him off again, or if he becomes more efficient, the lower user gets more water or might get less water because he's not diverting as much. So that whole issue of the farm, and I think they're about 70% of the right now of the owners of water rights in Utah. So that's when the legislature, the state really needs to tackle if we still want to maintain our agricultural uh, community.
That's a good point, thank you. So that's the kind of input that is very different than how do we sustain Great Salt Lake, right? As you're looking at better efficiencies, how to use water better on agriculture or your other industries as well. If it's mining or energy production, if you're getting more efficient there, how does that change your water access, ability, use? And what are the policies surrounding that and how should those be different if they are today? This plan won't change water rights. That's not going to change that, but it is the ability to say, in our community, in our watershed, these policies are working, they're not working. We want to take another look at this or, leave them alone kind of stuff. That's an opportunity for input.
So, Michelle, Division of Water Rights. So currently the state engineer does recognize safe water, Mike. So you should talk to whatever region you're in and talk to them about safe water legislation, because that does actually exist. If you show conservation, either diversion or depletion, it can be saved on your water rights now and be a line item as other, and it'll still, if it's earmarked diversion, it'll say diversion. If it's earmarked depletion that you saved, you can save that on your water now. I know in the past you did used to be reduced to what your uses are. The legislature now has safe water for the Division of Water Rights, so.
Yeah, I don't understand that as well as I probably should. Of course, the water in Kane County and even in Washington County is a lot more valuable than the water up in northern Utah, I'll tell you. I mean, it's $40,000 an acre foot for water down here. There's nobody in northern Utah that has that kind of price. So
Talk to Mike Freeman is the regional engineer down there for that. I would definitely reach out to him and see what their policies and everything, but in the legislature for statute, it does have safe water in. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
So Michelle, not to get too far out of the track here, but so when that creates a block of water that's that's a farmer conserves and it's still their water, does that in effect allow them to expand their?
It actually
acreage?
has, yes. It's gotta be depletion savings. They can't just be diversion savings, yeah.
It also allows them to market that water
Correct.
to be used somewhere else.
Well, that's great, because for years there was no incentive for agriculturists to save water.
So this all started with the farm, anyway, Hill's Farm wanted to just stay within their diversion and depletion records, and if they could prove to it, they wanted to be able to do it, and it has been allowed, and this is kind of what snowballed all this, but yes. Have to have good record.
So I'm probably going to state something that's obvious to the Division of Water Resources, but you guys have a wonderful website on water marketing and just completed the big water marketing strategy for the state. And I'm hoping that that will be looked at. We learned a bunch of lessons, most of them in the Price River Watershed about water markets. And I think that's going to be really critical that we look at that. We look at those lessons learned and those challenges and maybe make some recommendations to make things a little easier to make some of these water markets that Mike Noel and Cody Allred are talking about.
Thank you.
That's a good point, Sue. One of the things I would ask is that as Nature Conservancy buys conservation easements, sometimes the conservation easement doesn't allow for a farmer that wants to protect his land to implement newer, more modernized ways to deliver water. Is there a way that that can be written into the easements so that we don't put them out of business because innovation comes along and they can't meet that and provide the same product, whether it's hay or whatever, because they're locked into a conservation easement that doesn't allow them to modernize. Have you guys looked into that at all?
I couldn't agree with you more. I think just like everybody, we're learning about how to do our business better. I actually don't know any conservation easements that don't allow them to modernize their water delivery systems. That may be happening, but I don't know of any that we hold. We often have said that they cannot take their water off of their property, which actually prohibits them to do some of these more innovative solutions like market their water to somebody else for in-stream or do a water bank or something like that. So we'd love to have all the suggestions and recommendations we can so that we can do our job better. Yeah.
Definitely in the interest of time, we want to.
Yeah, I think unless anyone has any other major comments on the community chapter of the productive ag, again, we'll be sending out a survey. It could be another week and a half, 2 weeks, but we'll be asking just some basic questions, but also maybe digging a little bit deeper into just some of the things that maybe have been brought up here, things that we think would be relevant. The survey, it is anonymous, however, at the end, you'll have the opportunity to enter your information. That would be really great if you're willing to do that, just so that I can follow up with you if there's any questions or additional information. And then that information will be shared out with Watershed Council, with some of our agency partners. But I just really appreciate you all taking the time to discuss this and hopefully working into the future to get something developed, especially again for that Basin chapter. And I'm really hopeful that that's going to be really useful to you all to sort of elevate some of those topics.
Will the survey be individual emails or is that coming to the Watershed Council? You know?
I haven't even, yeah. Okay. Thank you all.
And then this rolling up of information used specifically on chapter 8 you talked about, is that something we go work on right now, or will that be something that does evolve during like the summer scoping meeting.
Yeah, so I'll be reaching out to you all and trying to identify if maybe there's a subset of folks here that want to be part of sort of gathering all the information from the council and sort of that I can work with them. Or, you know, if we want to have additional meetings, which I don't know how favorable that is to everyone. So I think that would be good. And then, yeah, and then also working with you all on trying to see if there's some folks that would help with just some pretty light lifting, but to be participating in that public scoping.
I think if there was a little more of a structured roll down from you and your team to that would really focus on what you want, so we're not
All over the
grasp
board.
it.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think once we have some of that survey input, then that's something
Yeah.
that again, that maybe if there's a subset of you all that I can work with, sort of start hashing through that and figure out the best process.
So I think as part of our initial discussion, we wanted every area within our watershed boundaries to identify certain projects like in Carbon County, Emory County, down further south, if everybody can identify what projects are of critical interest to them. I think that would be a good starting point.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
because we don't wanna, I mean, we could take off and bury it with detailed
Just our
information
stuff,
with
yeah.
our stuff, and obviously this, so we wanna make sure when we do take the time and focus on helping you, that it's, that the product we give to you is actually helpful, and it's not just a whole bunch of things that don't fit your focus right now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe looking at that survey will help a little bit of that. But yeah, I'm glad Rachel brought up that page on it because I don't want to send folks down this path of generating a lot of content and material, then to be disappointed with, you know, the fact that we do need to sort of distill this down a little bit.
So kind of following up with that projects list, that infrastructure,
United Water Infrastructure Fund.
plan list
Yeah.
group, yep. We are looking for projects that get contributed to that, and we want as many projects from throughout the state as can be from all water areas. So, drinking water, water quality, stormwater, water distribution, agriculture water, all of it. For those projects, that committee is going to try to rank those, and they are going to have a report that goes to the legislature about funding. And if you are able to package your projects together so they impact a single project description impacts more than one county, agriculture and municipal use, watershed protection, water quality, if you can kind of describe them that way, I think they will rank higher on those lists than if it's, like if it was along the Price River and you have 4 projects along the Price River, if you could package that as Price River improvement and it's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, you know, kind of stuff, and it has a bunch of different impacts, supporters, it would do better than each one of those smaller projects individually. So thinking kind of along those lines too, as you're putting together your information. And that's kind of separate from the state water plan, but related to working with it.
But I think we could leverage that, right? Like if there are
Yes.
things identified, we can work together to, even if that's not in the state water plan, how can we leverage other projects plans to take that? So I don't see it as a wasted effort.
Yeah.
You know who this all went out to as far as the mail, email list?
I think it's that survey that the contracting company sent out.
Yes.
Do you know? I think they're trying to send it out to anyone. This is my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is if you want state funding in the next 20 years, you need to get on this list now.
And you can
Right.
share those with me. The individual that's collecting contact information at the division that's forwarding it to the consultants that's compiling it, came and asked me for our contact lists, and we did give them Watershed Council members on that list, so you should see that survey because of your participation here.
Mine was yesterday, so I don't know. But I've seen it not.
I got mine yesterday.
Okay, so,
I didn't see one. So,
okay, so email me and I will share those with Isabel. But yeah, you should be seeing them. And like I said, for that list, if you can get together and package those.
And we have a couple of months to submit that from what I read.
Early May.
Is it early May?
But I don't think it was even gonna start taking them until mid-April.
Yeah, April 7th.
So, yeah, so do some coordination among yourselves to, you know, kind of work through that and how you want to present it, I think, to your best advantage.
Well, thank you all for your time on the state water plan. I appreciate it.
Thank you, appreciate,
We'll be in contact.
appreciate you going over that. Again, get us more information, so we can start to focus in on what we really should focus on in our area.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect, appreciate it. All right, I guess the next thing we should, look like we can move on to the maps, watershed map.
Okay,
Does anybody have it available?
that's what you can see it comes up here.
I would just like to thank all those that contributed time and effort since we met last time on this map. I mean, we are definitely moving in a positive direction. Still think there's lots of neat things we can do to this. I didn't have a chance to get in and really dive into the details, but I did look at the set of instructions today, and it'd be great if we could just spend a little time, Rachel, walk through a few things, but thanks a lot to all those that had an effort in where we're at so far.
Would you go ahead and share your entire screen thing?
I'm gonna get you this.
Oh, okay.
If you need me to, I can pop it and share for mine.
You need to get to the Wi-Fi. I can connect to the Wi-Fi. I will, our folks in our office worked on this. I'm proud of the work that they did. I hope it works for you guys. Know that it's what you liked. I am gonna say just off the top that the industrial sites that are listed on this may not be accurate. This is what one of our GIS folks on our staff scraped from water rights database. And it just came from them reporting water use as an industrial use. So, but the projects that are listed, did come from your responses so far from the survey.
How were the responses? Did we get very many?
There's 8, 12.
I haven't counted.
There's a few, not at home. Most of them are in the northern area of the state, and I don't know if that's because there's not a lot of projects that are going on, but I think it didn't include the salinity stuff.
You suppose you could send that survey out again? I don't know if I remember the survey.
Yes, so I will send that out again, and I think I sent instructions last night for how to navigate the map, and the survey was in those instructions.
Okay, so I didn't have the survey.
Okay. So yeah, and if you wanted it again, sorry, you guys, I can't type and talk at the same time.
So.
Yeah.
Get the map up there.
Mount Curly.
Sure.
Thank you.
Need to charge up my laptop.
I don't ever even see the PWC. Internet, Wi-Fi. It doesn't ever, it doesn't find it for me. Oh, it's okay.
We'll see if I can do this now.
I think I tried to last time too, and I couldn't. I see Stephanie smiling.
Just go ahead and hop on. You really can hop on.
Carly, I'll get this. Sorry.
I'm gonna see if I can hop in the meeting and just share my screen.
Still, it's not letting me print.
You might have to send new instructions.
Yeah.
Okay, is that showing up on here?
Yes. Okay, so Carly, do you want to drive this and I'll describe what it is?
Yep.
Okay, so this is the landing page that you're gonna see when you come in. This is just the beginning page that is preface to getting you into the map. If you click anywhere off this page, then it gets you to the map where you can navigate around. The very first parts that you're going to that you want to understand about using are this plus and minus and the house on the left-hand side. Plus zooms in, minus zooms out. The house will take you back to that landing page view. So if you ever get someplace and you go, I don't know where I am, click on the house, it takes you back to the starting place. Over here on the right-hand side, those are the elements that we're pulling from the surveys that you completed. So if you click on one of these green dots, that is one of your projects. And it will open this window. And this is about the project that you clicked on. Up here in the top left-hand corner, there's those right and left arrows. That will allow you to scroll through the pages, and you see here this says 1 of 4. That means there's 4 different elements associated with this project.
No. Sorry. That means you have 4 different layers open on the left-hand side, and one of them is the project.
Yes.
Sorry, Rachel.
No, you're good. So, Carly, when you click on the docking window there first, that next door down, maybe. This one, yeah, that will move that window off to the right-hand side so it gets out of your way, which I find very helpful and only learned about when we were doing these instructions. So then now Carly's going to go ahead and click on the arrows up here. We started out on the project page. When she clicked on that next one, this is the next layer that's available. It's the Western Colorado Basin, and it's highlighted on the map. So you can type what the information you're looking at to where it resides on the map. Go ahead and click again, Carly. So Price River is the information about the Price River. And then one more time. And this is about Carbon County. That's the data that's on the layers about Carbon County. She clicks one more time, it's going to take us back to the project. Go ahead and close that. Those are available for both the projects that are the green dots, and those are the ones that you have submitted so far. You can use that survey to add projects at any time. That's a live survey and it will populate this. They will show up the next time you open it or if you refresh. Same thing for those industrial sites. Those are the red dots with the yellow ring about on them. Like I said, these are ones that we scrape from water rights. So it's worth a look at those to see if they're correct, incorrect. You know, Michelle, I don't know how often water rights goes through and says, is this accurate or not?
Well, if water use reporting, it's gonna be tricky. So
Yes.
if they report any industrial use at all.
Exactly. So, but it is some information. So that's the number of projects that were reported. Over here on the left-hand side, these are the layers that are available. Some of these have the 3 dots. Some of them have that eye with a no through it. The strike through ones are layers that are available, but we have turned off. We turned off a lot of them so that this would load faster when you opened it. Some of these layers are pretty large, so if they're turned on initially, you wait for the page to load. But you can come in and turn those on for yourself. Carly, go ahead and turn on the state park management area. So it will, and sometimes you have to zoom in or out of these to be able to show them. So right here, there's one of the state park management area. And again, you click on it and it brings up the information about it. I will say too that this window will stay docked over here on the right-hand side until you click on those 2 stacked panes. When you click on those again, then it goes back to the default, which is someplace close to the area you've clicked on. And in my mind, it obscures that. So I like docking it over on the right-hand side. But yeah, that's as far as navigation, that is what's there. I invite you to go through and look at this, see if there is other information that you would like to see on it. I did send out navigation instructions last night that show you how to do just what I said. I think it would be valuable to host those instructions someplace on the map. We haven't figured out exactly how to do that well yet, but I think like tips for navigation link that then opens a document or it opens a tab already that you can move to or away from based on it.
Is there a way you could put a button by your plus minus and home that would link to a document?
Cody? That would be fantastic. Those come with the Esri default settings already.
I see.
But we are not dismissing that idea. We don't have to do it yet.
Okay.
So, but yeah, someplace on the screen I think would be ideal so that it's there. Yeah, Bart.
One thing I'll add is underneath, the 3rd button down on the right-hand side there is base maps.
Yes.
And you can change your base map to be a USGS topo map. It can be, there's other images you can choose from as well, or you can just do more of like a Google Maps map if you want, but just be aware of that. Some people are used to seeing things on a topo map instead of imagery or whatever, so that can be handy at times too.
And just like, thank you, Bart, that's, just like.
I have a question.
Our defaults to the Esri ArcGIS platforms or program, those on the right-hand side are also default map icons that are used in tools that are available. So, yeah, question.
Could you make this available through ArcGIS field maps? Typically, when you create a map, there's in the edit page, you can make accessible in field maps. And then if you're out in the field, you can use it on your phone.
This is, yes, we can. Right now, this is being developed for this council to do a presentation to the State Water Council. That's the main focus for this. I fully anticipate that once the state council, once this is presented by you guys to the state council, other councils will want to see this. And so we will develop a default format that has some other bells and whistles make it more usable, more user-friendly. And I think we'll be able to publish it and make it accessible from mobile devices as well.
Okay.
So the comment, thank you.
Rachel, how hard would it be to make a layer that? It would be a really interesting visual if we could take the 21 members of our council and just put a pin drop on that map and see how well distributed we are across that. I mean, if you look at there's not a lot of that, there's not a lot of things on our map now down south. I would like, without trying to just sift through it on the table.
That's easy to do, Cody. That's a great idea.
Make it a mini person shape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is I'll have Olga, and Olga's on here. She's the one that created the surveys for us, and she's the one that made the surveys live link to populate the map. But I'll have her create another survey that has council members. Do you want your contact information as part of that survey?
No.
No,
Okay,
I think just a general location.
Just a
I mean, how do you
location.
guys feel about that? Maybe I'm speaking out of turn,
Well, I think it's gonna look just like this map does right now.
but I think that's an important picture to show at
Yeah.
some point.
I
'Cause
think this is pretty.
we talk about our challenges.
We've got information on
having input.
up in Carter and Emery County, and
so Carla, will you click on a project and open the window that's associated with that?
And I don't even care if there's names associated with it.
just show council.
Yeah, let's
I
not do
mean,
names.
Your name's on.
Like the
your
center of
name's
your
on.
city, even, not
Yeah.
even.
It's all over.
Yeah,
Carla,
yours-
go ahead and click on, one of the, yeah. Okay, so this information comes from that survey. So whatever we have on that survey, we need to choose how we want it represented on the map because it will be able to display this. So we can have the survey be, I'm an agriculture representative, I'm an industry representative, and then maybe the city that you live in.
Sure.
Does
And
it
then
require a survey?
Again, all the information
Somebody just
already.
take their council from that.
we can just take, yeah,
I don't need one more phone.
we can just take your council membership list and do it.
I think we just have counties, or do we have?
And so to then just have it be the county that you live in.
I know I have that somewhere.
Maybe it's not that critical.
It will show why is there not as many south projects? Because it's not represented well on the council.
Right.
You're gonna see that correlation, which
Yes.
is helpful. I do think Cody's got a good point. That's
Yes,
helpful.
I think so
It's
too.
not that they don't have issues.
Right.
That they don't.
And it needs to be to that.
We all know that.
Council, right?
So, and again, that may help in the future as far as the legislature is concerned. If we ever want to try and do something to split
Right, yes,
this up.
yeah. So you would prefer not to see your names? Or names are okay?
If it's the entity, does it matter if the person, I mean, it doesn't need the person's name. 'Cause, you know, you put Price River Water on there in 5 years. My name's not gonna be needed on there.
Well, and this is gonna be, this would not be a static map. I would hate to do this and have it be a static map where it doesn't change as this council changes.
And my suggestion was from the perspective of just a visual.
Mhm.
We have organizing documents that very clearly state names, addresses, what who they're representing. I don't know that the map has to do that. It would just be a nice layer, just like you click on major rivers, you can, if you just wanted to very quickly say, here's a distribution of our council members.
Right.
And, you know, over time, we would want to try to have a nice, even, or more even distribution. I would be very interested to see how it looks now.
Okay. So we want an entity that you are affiliated with. Is that the same as your representation, who you're representing?
I'm understanding we don't want any information, right? Like, we just want the geographic distribution of people. Like, is that?
Yeah.
Like, they can
Okay.
all just say council
Okay.
member 2025.
Okay, so all I need then is, the county that you're from? City?
Would the county be enough?
Yeah, I think county.
Okay, so if all of you, if we do counties, it's gonna put your pin at the centroid of the county.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Okay, okay, yep, we can do that easy.
Or will it put it at your county seat?
The way, Olga,
She has a meeting at 2:30.
oh,
So we decided that Carly could answer.
Bart, does it do the centroid or does,
I imagine it probably does.
I think it does the centroid, and I'm not a GIS person, so I'm speaking out of turn, but I believe if we ask, if you do a boundary and it asks for a pin in the boundary, it puts it at the centroid. So I think if the boundary is the county, it would put it at the,
I think what would be more effective is if, just the people that are in Carbon County, it's gonna put dots on top of dots, and you won't be able to see.
that's right.
That there's 12 or whatever it is,
Right.
it would be, maybe you just have somebody manually put those in kind of in the area around Bryce. And then, in Emery County somewhere, and then that way, when you just look first glance, you can see, oh, where are they all
Right.
concentrated or whatever.
So I would let some GIS people handle this because you could actually just weight it so the circle's larger depending upon the number of points that are there. So they can probably, you'd be able to show how kind of say it's Rove represented in the north and in the south, or the distribution of members that way. But it's easy to do, and I just let some GIS people create a few options for us and we take a look at it and we'll figure out which one we like.
I invite you again to go ahead and go in here. This is just in the development. It's only open for you. It's not published, hasn't been shown to anybody else. When we get it to a place where you want to be able to use it, we can publish it, so it's available from ArcGIS. And at that point, it's open game. It's available. They wouldn't be able to edit it, but anybody's going to be able to see it. So you'll want to keep that in mind about it, so.
A little further on the agenda, we'll be talking about our presentation that we're gonna give to the state council here in just a few days.
Yeah.
Like everybody's thoughts on whether we feel like we're far enough along that we actually put this up on the screen, or do I just generally describe that we've started an effort here? And just talk about the map and what some of the things we want to do. Is it far enough along that we want to put it up there and try to navigate through it? So we don't have to answer that now.
Okay, have plenty of time on that.
Excellent.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And whenever you guys want, I know you're wanting to use this sort of as a tool to know about projects going on. So you can pull it up anytime, go through all these projects, see if there are any you want to learn about, etc.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And one last thing, just because it's fun, is we did put in the land ownership layer, which takes a while to load in, but you can see
Yeah.
like federal, state, private land. I wonder, oh yeah, and here's the legend, so national forest, national monument,
What's up with the bottom?
that's national monument, I think. So, anyway, I just think that's fun, so there's a lot to play around with.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for working on that. Like we just plan, you want to plan anything on a tour for the summer, this summer? I touched on something in the last meeting. I haven't thought about anything. I don't know what anyone else's thoughts are. Kerry, I don't know if you have any thoughts in mind for down here for now.
At the moment, you enjoyed Hanksville, I think, in October, so that big project.
Okay.
I'm glad it wasn't cold. Inverted.
Anybody have any suggestions? Thoughts, ideas?
I think last time I said that Emery County Conservancy District, but everybody's probably done that except for me.
I will say that, the Colorado River Authority likes to do, tours, which I think the Hanksville one was
That's what it
too.
was.
But yeah, they were part of that. And so they will probably like to see a tour sometime in the coming year as well. So,
The authority,
yes.
Jay Mark's on that board.
Looking through my notes from the last meeting, it looks like it was thrown out a tour of some big projects in the northern area, including Olson Reservoir Project. Amy Dickey offered to talk about the non-point source project work on scope or above Schofield. I did have a note on Emery Conservancy, Water Conservancy District, Gobi Reservoir. And then just a note here to maybe use the project points on the map to see if there are any tours you'd like. So I don't know if that's helpful, but that's what I had from last time.
Would the thought be that it would be a meeting? I mean, what are the other councils doing when they do a tour?
Yeah, I can place it in your meeting. Yep. That's up to you.
Okay, we should have a little more, maybe we'll have more information on the Olson next month. There is some action there, but we don't have a lot of information on it yet. It's all income funding at this point. So we should know in the near future, hopefully, on that. So that's possibly really good.
I'd like to do a tour of the southern part because I know most of the stuff here. So selfishly, I could get a lot more out of the tour. You know, south of I-70 and look at any of them drainages, but that's my 2 cents.
When we're talking a tour, we're gonna just rent a big bus and all get on the bus. So we can visit with one another while we're on the bus instead of being in our own cars, just ongoing along the road.
Where do you rent a bus?
You got a big old 8-wagon, you know.
Keep
the horses.
I like the idea, it's the, where you get the bus.
I was on a water resources tour years ago, and they just had a bus rented.
Oh, really?
Smith coaches up there in Elbert.
Oh, do they still do that?
They rented a bus.
That's what we do for tours when the Board of Water Resource tours now. I'm not sure what it looks like for watershed councils, but we can look into it soon.
And we want to see, you know, how many people were committed to spending a good day or half a day.
Yep.
The bus might be a little bit, couple bands, I mean, but I don't want to do the accident like that.
I mean, we could get permission to bring a couple big division cars, maybe.
Yes.
Do
Like bands or.
some vans.
That, and you know, there's a few people probably could just offer their vehicle. I'd be happy. I could put 4 or 5 people in my pickup.
Well, should we table that for now?
Yeah, when we get to setting our next meeting, maybe.
Yeah, okay. All right, let's talk about your presentation at the Watershed Council now.
Yeah, so when is
April 10th.
So April 10th, our council's up for the first, will be, I think, one of two other companies. There'll be 3 of us that probably the last set that goes in front of the state council and just kind of, it's just a progress report, lack of a better term, or a report on where we're at, what we've done up to this point. A 5 or 7 minute spiel that I'll give, as the state representative, so I'd just like some feedback and thoughts and. I can go back to my office and kind of prepare a presentation if I could just get some bullet points on. Some of the things I've had is obviously just reporting on the facts, the meetings that we've had. The dates, and I can pull the key information off our meeting minutes from that point and talk a little bit about. The watershed, just some factoids. I think who sent out some facts on our watershed, and just a few interesting facts that I'll put together, just describes our watershed. Talk about the map. And then the 2 points that I think might be worth getting input is just challenges and then future focuses that we have in the next year. If we don't have a lot to tell, honestly, we've met 3 or 4 times. We were the last council to be developed or to be stood up, and so we're in our infancy. So I don't think they expect a grand presentation of all the cool things we've done so far, but that's my thoughts, just kind of being really objective, just walking through where we're at. But I really would like to hear everyone's thoughts on challenges. I do think it's, I don't think we shouldn't hide the fact that we're struggling with not only kind of what our role is and what we really should be doing, but the size of the things we've talked about. I don't think that's would be a bad thing to put out there.
I think it should be put out there, probably talk about this.
And I don't know if we go as far as recommending we split it in 2, but just say that, just for this first presentation, just say we're really struggling getting around the whole watershed and getting the input from everybody, things we talked about. So.
And I think if you show them that map, they will understand that.
Yeah.
But I think you can use that map and use some of those highlights, the Olson Reservoir, the lower elevation basin. Some of these projects they're far along in the planning process. That I think would highlight the efforts in the basin. Now, I don't know if there's something all across the basin, but maybe just some ammunition to grow your.
What are their challenges?
Or at least bring a map up and say, here it is, here's the draft, here's the raw, and this is a work in progress. And this is the direction we're moving forward, but don't get very deep into it because we don't really know what we're doing with it yet.
Right.
Yeah. At least set it out there. They can see, to Jeff's point, they can see the size of what we're really trying to do with this watershed. And to get equal representation across it. And that's probably always gonna be a challenge. I mean, that's just the way it's gonna be, so.
How do you rate on Kerry? Do you feel like would it be okay to put the map up and just show them really quick?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think they would enjoy seeing it.
Okay.
It'll be something new we haven't seen before.
And no other watershed has done this, has created a map like this, and I really do think that
Create some jealousy.
when it will create some jealousy. More work for you, it's gonna do, it will be. But it's valuable. We've had the watershed or those basin maps for ages, but they're not populated with information like this. We create them for specific intentions, but this is, specific to you guys.
So then you have others reaching out to you wanting to get their story, and they're gonna have different ideas, different desires. At some point, these are all gonna come together, and we're really gonna have a map that's developed, that's gonna be top of the line for everyone in the state of Utah.
Yeah.
For every watershed.
You guys would have started that.
Yeah. How wonderful is this going to be when I have to depend on technology on a subject that I'm not very comfortable with? That'll be the entire subject.
But just make sure that they know it's us that started. That's your duty right there, to make us.
I'll ask Warren Peterson how we can copyright this.
Probably important to add why we did it, because we're trying to learn our own regions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
We need to just get a picture for it.
Right.
We can't comprehend it.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
That's definitely one of the driving factors behind that.
Yes.
Sure.
I think the map really illustrates not only the distance that we're struggling with, but the difference. I believe there's a layer that shows irrigated ag. And when you put that layer on, you really understand how important the San Rafael and the price is to our agricultural economy in the state of Utah. And then further south is the big grand staircase monument, which of course comes with all of its own challenges, managing water and property in a monument.
Thanks, Sue. Future focuses, obviously, state water plan support. We'll put that on our presentation for sure. Towards just getting out, getting our boots on the ground. What, any other future focuses that we want to point out to them, what we're gonna be working on or focusing towards?
Do you guys feel like the benefit of this council is to you?
I didn't hear that.
What do you think the benefit of this council is to you or to your communities?
In the future, we hope it's a benefit for us, the pressure of draining, for sure, the pressure river.
I think the silence is pretty
We're
telling.
not there yet.
I think the silence is pretty telling, and I think it's, I've understood that other councils struggle with this too, and just what the heck?
Yeah.
Do we want us to do, what do we want to do? I don't know who's,
We're trying to find our way here.
Yeah.
honestly, the silence.
What's really expected.
And I may bring that up, I may say that Rachel asked the question, and this is what we heard.
Yep. Yeah. And I think part of that is not just what are you expected to do, because that's always a challenge. And, you know, Carly and I struggle with that as well. But in that void, what is it that you want to do? So that gives you some flexibility and some leeway to say, you know, it hasn't been prescribed. So where would we like to take this? What would we like to get out of it? If we're going to dedicate time away from your day jobs to do this.
You know, maybe one thing we would want to do is, you know, this is gonna be one of the most critical documents in the state of Utah on water resource management policy. It is a chance for the little guy to try to tell our story and to put our input into it. So it's not just a Great Salt Lake and a lake pipe, you know, it gives us a chance to at least try to influence that plan and have it, help us out.
Yeah.
But I see it as a two-edged sword. Because where's the population centers? Salt Lake, Washington County, and then the development's going to be along the Weaver and the Bear. And I think if we put these plans together, I hope the legislature gives everybody all these different basins. Call it equal consideration. But where are your legislators from? The I-15 corridor. They're not from Carver, Denver, Grand, San Juan, Kane counties, Garfield counties. Nobody lives through here. We're just sparsely populated. And so we share representatives, we share senators. For a third of the land mass of the state, we have a third of, we don't have a third of the voice.
And that's one of the places where I think these councils can help with you. And making that point that we aren't a third of the population, but we are a third of the land. And we are managing a third of the land.
I'll put in a 2 bits for Kane County, Washington County, all these rural counties down here. One of the things this watershed takes in consideration is the terrible job the Forest Service has done in managing these watersheds. And that when you create a 1.9 million acre monument, you don't get any watershed management at all. So we're hoping before this administration's over, there will be no more Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument, and Utah can manage their watersheds without the federal government's poor management history that they've got. So that's my goal. So let's get it on a map and show them what they're doing, and they've destroyed more watersheds than they've helped.
Noted, Mike, thank you.
That's what this is all about, I guess.
Cody, did you get what you needed for your?
Yeah, I think so. Is there any other, key bullet points? Again, it's just a 5-minute presentation, but what I outlined there, that sounds good. Okay. I'll put something together and they load it to at least to Carly, and if the whole council would like to see it, it'd probably be good for everybody to look at for it. I present.
Maybe we'll give you 5 minutes to the next meeting. Present it.
No, he presents it on the 10th.
I understand, but.
Make him
present
do
it
it again.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Well, you could just go with Cody.
Yeah, I'll definitely.
I'm safe that day.
Another day, another meeting, Jeff.
Yeah, anybody can join virtually, can't they?
Yes, yeah. Well, send us the link so we can watch it.
Yeah, I can set up a link.
Yeah, that would be great, Carly. Yeah.
Is that what you Salt Lake?
It is.
Unless you invite them down here. I can't speak for them, but Mike invited them to Kanab and they came, so.
Should rotate between our watershed councils every meeting.
If you invited them here, we could be here, we could be there in person, the heckling. Give you your
I'll probably
presentation.
get that.
That looks like pretty good. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Kevin.
Okay, thanks, Cody. Appreciate you being in that position and taking care of that for us. You did a great job the first time, or just straight out the gate.
Yeah.
You did a really good job, I thought, so we appreciate
Well,
it.
this won't be too hard.
Okay. All right, so do we want to revisit Amanda? Well, we're just about wrapped up here. I don't know if we need to talk about tours anymore, or if we just want to kick that down the road for now, let people think about it.
When's our next meeting gonna be? Will we have a next meeting in time to talk about a tour later in the summer?
I don't think you scheduled one.
So the next meeting would be in this next quarter. Right, so if you didn't plan a tour until then, it would be in the fall.
I like that better myself.
I'm busy enough in the summer.
Okay.
Should we have another sit down desktop meeting and then schedule a tour in the fall in the third quarter?
Okay, everybody will think, try and get some ideas what we'd like to do. I'm fine with that. Everybody else is. Okay.
What about where it means? Should we try to force this issue about some engaging the south more and going down there to the meeting in the central part of the area, or?
That would be fine with me.
What do you think, Kerry?
I didn't make it to Kanab when I had the opportunity, so I had too many other irons in the fire.
Would we get?
So shame on me.
Would we get some more people coming face to face if we did that?
It's all about advertising and letting them know what it is. And making them feel that it's important to show. If it's just another meeting for them to come to, another water meeting to come to, everybody can find something more important that they want to do themselves than attend a water meeting.
So Kerry, for that area, what would make that meaningful for them?
That's good for me to think about. That's an important thing. We need to make it meaningful.
we did the tour down south, maybe that would be the fall, we could ship down there and plan a day where we go to and have to start out in a room and have a discussion and maybe have a place we could all go out and look around. I don't know. You know, when we're meeting here.
Let's do that. Let's set another meeting for next quarter. And then that'll give Kerry some time. We get fair participation here, and I don't know how many people we truly even have that will have additional. We may not have part of this group down there. I don't know.
Will you guys commit to attend online to a meeting that's down south if you don't make it there in person? For sure.
I think that much.
For sure. Okay, I'm writing you down. Take and roll.
If you're coming down south, make sure it's cold up north. That's the main reason you come down. Come down to Washington County. They're doing a lot of projects down, and we can set up something really good for them if you'd like to do it.
That'd be good.
Meet in St. George and they're building a new reservoir. They just got a lot. They've got a lot of pressure on them right now to meet the water demand in that area. Just growing, unbelievable.
That part would definitely have to be an overnight thing, though, I would think.
Yes, for sure. It'd have to be overnight. Yeah. That's why I say plant something that for in the winter, next winter, January maybe.
So that's a consideration for this council because we don't have funds to do that unless we got a sponsor to sponsor an overnight stay.
I'm guaranteeing you that Washington County will do that. They'd love to have you come down, and so I represent that area, and that they would be great.
And they would be willing, Mike, to pay for overnight stays?
I think so. I mean, they've got the most money of anybody I know. There's only two kind of people at the Wasatch Front, the ones that already have a house down in St. George and the ones that are looking for one, okay?
Just a question, doesn't our tour need to be within our own water council?
I think this fall we would definitely want it this year.
But Washington's in the other council, or is it not? No?
It is.
St. George.
Yeah, St. George.
Oh, yeah, and their reservoirs in the other, yeah,
So we're out of the boundary.
yeah.
We're not coming, Michael.
Well, as far as I know, I thought I did represent Washington County.
I think part of Kane County is in this council.
Yes.
So I think that's who you're representing.
Okay. Well, I got elected to the state council in Washington County, so I wasn't sure. Is there anybody on this call from Washington County?
No.
Pretty sure that's the way it went, but
Yeah, because you're on two councils, right? You're on the Kanab Creek Virgin River.
I'm actually on three. We have the Sevier River, we have the Kanab Creek, East Fork of the Virgin River, and we have the one out east, that's Colorado. So yeah, we have all three in my county.
For your next meeting here, Mark Stilson told me he'd like to present on demand management. That's okay with you guys?
Sure.
Yeah, that's a good presentation that he has.
Have you all already seen
I've
it?
seen it.
Maybe he should just present it.
No, it's really good.
Okay, no, it's good.
Excellent.
And are you coordinating, who's coordinating with Mark on that?
I would ask one of the chairs to coordinate that.
You want to see if Mark will come to the next meeting?
I'm not a chair, but I can do that easily.
Sure.
I would like to expand that to not only just demand management, but just a general update on Colorado River. I agree. Give us some more on where things are at.
He does a very good presentation on that.
I would just need a date.
So send out a calendar so we can everybody can go through and once you get a day figured out for the next meeting. We'll try that one right now.
It's easiest to set.
How would
Okay.
you use-
Well, yeah. Mark. He can make.
June.
We're looking at June.
Well, get it done in April, May, but sooner the better.
You know, in May. That's from now. Okay. Yeah. When from where?
It's,
I'm sure.
May 28th.
I don't know.
that's probably too close to Memorial, could be for someone, I don't know.
I don't, it's on Wednesday though.
21st or 20th.
Maybe it's a suggestion, see when he's available, and then Carly could send that out and we could coordinate that way.
Okay, let me talk to Mark. That's better, Nick. Let me talk to Mark and see what,
Yeah.
when he's available in May.
Yeah, so do a tentative 21st, you said, Cody?
Yeah.
What day of the week is that?
Far enough went out for me. That's
That's a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday, okay,
I'll just call in later today.
thank you.
Thanks, Julie.
Okay. Open items, anything else we want to discuss? Anyone have anything about? Okay.
Anything else that they want on the next agenda?
I'd be interested to know what feedback you get from,
yeah, definitely.
because I'll be honest with you, sitting in this room today, I've kind of noticed that people are getting a little bit lost in their thoughts, and I see some people who left, and there's not a lot of people on the virtual type meeting. So I get concerned that we're not focusing on exactly what we need to do, because we don't know what we're supposed to be doing. So I don't know how we're gonna get that put together, so we kind of know what direction we're supposed to do. I can see us maybe getting to know what projects are important in each of the counties. Maybe making a list of that, trying to address number 8 on this plan. But I'm still a little bit lost on what the actual focus is for this council. I don't know if anybody else feels the same way, but I'm getting that sense when I come to these meetings that I'm not tuned in exactly what we're supposed to be doing.
I agree, but I was just assuming that it's gonna be a learning curve and it's gonna morph into what we need it to be if we're patient and give it some time.
Wasn't Casey Snyder the sponsor of the legislation?
It was Warren Peterson and Tom Hawks. It was Tim Hawks. Yeah.
Oh, Tim. Okay, well, Tim's not in anymore, so.
I think that kind of discussion will help. I mean, I think they know that. I honestly think that would be a surprise for long. But we'll hopefully get some good feedback and maybe some direction and stuff, but I definitely can have that be an agenda item, just to report on the meeting and what kind of feedback we got.
Because I sensed the same frustration when you presented the last time, when I listened to some of the other council presentations. They said, well, we went on this tour, we had this meeting, we did this, and that's about all we've done. The presentations weren't very long. Yours was longer than most of them, and I thought very well put together. I was kind of surprised that they hadn't done a lot more when they've been in place for quite a while. Some of those councils on the Bear River.
So you're gonna present with like 2 other councils up there?
You might glean something from their presentations that you might bring back to us that we can implement and do.
I think that's one of my roles as the state rep. Done that so far, is just every time there's a state meeting, I'll take a little extra and careful notes and bring it back and, you know, funnel that information out to this council.
Maybe that's something we need to do, we'll put on our list of things to do, is come up with a mission statement. We don't have a mission statement right now, do we?
There may be one in the act, I mean, I don't know.
So you can
No,
No.
really, yeah, so
So we're wandering in the dark.
maybe the state, maybe that's a thing we would ask the state council to do first, an overarching mission statement, and then that could, so we have
We can draw them in
a
there.
trickle down effect, you know, that council's aligned with the state mission.
ultimately ask the legislature, you created this into existence, what do you want from this? I mean, you know. You got people that are willing and able to do it, but what is exactly you want from us?
Right.
So I'm gonna say, you guys, I think you have a full meeting agenda next time. What I just heard was work on a mission statement. Presentation from Mark Stilton on the Colorado River. Review what you want your contribution to the state water plan to be for specifically chapter 8. Cody's report back, first of all, his presentation that he makes to the state council and report back on the state council and plan your tour. That's a full meeting. Sounds like a full meeting. Is there anything you'd still like to do that you're willing to push off to the next meeting, or that you would want to replace one of those things?
I think we're pushed off things like planning a
Tour.
So we get more information, that mission statement. It's not going to do a lot of good till we get something from the state. So I think we're going to put that together, and if the state doesn't act, then we'll be pushing that off.
Yeah, okay.
And I can share out those survey results to help with that discussion, and maybe, I don't know if there's some folks that would like to have some input on that prior to that meeting to just sort of structure that and streamline that conversation.
So if this next meeting here is toward the end of May, mid to end of May, the survey results, you're getting the survey out quickly, would be important to get feedback from that.
Okay.
I need some input. This sort of relates to this discussion of mission statement, etc. I'm toying with the idea of doing like the Watershed Council Symposium, where any Watershed Council member can come and maybe they can learn what other councils have decided to do, you know. Oh, Severe River invited legislators to come, so they can be the people legislators call when they have questions about the area, or, oh, Canal Creek Virgin River is doing this. And then maybe like have people from the state of Colorado has watershed councils. What have they been doing? They've been set up for 10 years, you know, what would this look like in 10 years? Is that, like, would you guys come to that? It would require a day, you know, it would require a day out of your lives, yeah? I just wanna make sure it's something useful and not just another ask, you know, another meeting. So I'm trying to get feedback on if that would be genuinely useful, if people would be interested, hopefully help you with this like mission statement, purpose identification. Thoughts?
I like that idea.
Yeah? Okay.
I think so. I would be very interested to see how Colorado's evolved over a 10-year period.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that something, Kerry, you guys would do? Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Have you discussed that with the state council or other councils, or is it kind of a fresh idea too?
It's a semi-fresh idea. The toy, I have not discussed it with them heavily, but
We have been
planning on
talking about it within the division,
for
but
a while.
not, yes.
But I think we were sort of waiting to see what needs arose after all the councils were established. Okay. Cool, thank you. I'd hate to ask another day from all you guys who are already giving their time, so. Okay. Thanks.
Anything else?
I have something.
Okay.
I just want to remind you guys that you need to do that Open and Public Meetings Act training.
Oh, yes.
Have a handful of people who've completed it. but
You emailed that to us, that's still on my email.
I can send it again.
Read the link out again, please.
I can do that.
You will send it
If
out.
you would
again?
send it again, I'm pretty sure I saved it, but I saw that weeks ago, I went, oops.
Mark did his.
Kevin's waiting for you
Yeah.
right now with your certificate, so.
I'm probably the first one down.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's why we don't have chairs.
It won't take you 15 minutes. It's not pretty.
So you'll send it out? Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Get you past it.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any other comments, questions? So we did call it a day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Bill made a motion.
Um,
Mark seconded. Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're gonna-
Thank you.